Welcome to Hybrid DevOps at Scale, a case study in engineering excellence. I've been chatting away to Per and Arun, so we're all good. And I'm going to hand it over to you gentlemen. Have a good session. Thank you.
Fantastic. And good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. So we'll have a good discussion around how we have adopted DevOps and Agile at a large scale across many hundred people in our development organization. My name is Per Kroll, and I head up research and development for what we call our portfolio for DevOps and our portfolio for AIOps products, and also run our investments in our development of Zoe and open source IDEs and so on, so anything related to open source. And with me I have Arun. Arun, what do you do?
Thanks, Per. So my name is Arun Vijayaraghavan. I head the DevOps Center of Excellence within the engineering group at Broadcom, primarily working on helping our engineering groups improve the way they build products.
And we are both in US. I'm in North Carolina and Arun is in Texas. So we brought the morning coffee with us. So today we will, well, first, there is a raffle as you've seen in every presentation. So hopefully join the charity raffle. We will talk today about why we did a transformation, why we invested heavily over many years in Agile and DevOps. Talk about how we built an Agile mindset, an innovation mindset. So what are the things we've been doing and what are the type of things we are focusing on? Arun will walk us through our DevOps pipeline, what that looks like, and the things his team is focusing on. And then we'll wrap up with lessons learned and Q&A. Anytime, feel free to interrupt if you have questions. Use the chat session. We have to open up and have a dialogue. We should have plenty of time for Q&A in the end, or if you have a question midway, just chat along and we try to take those. So let's start with why we're transforming. So first, our environment looks probably pretty much like any of your environments in terms of all of our applications or our products are running primarily on the mainframe. They increasingly have hybrid components, right? We have more and more analytics built into our products, more and more advanced web UIs, more and more software running on distributed platform that deals with the integration between mainframe and distributed world. So we're leveraging Zoe that is primarily running on distributed and so on, right? So a lot of our software, or pretty much all of our software today, cuts across platforms. We want to make sure that we don't looking at this as cross-platform development, where there's silo development. We're bringing that together, so no matter where the software is developed or where it's running, we have an integrated delivery pipeline for dealing with that software. One thing that we are focusing heavily on is hiring, right? So we have been onboarding triple-digit people, 100+ people every year since Broadcom acquired CA. So we hired more than 500 people now into our organization. What that means is that we need to make sure that when we hire people, either directly from university or people that have a lot of experience around distributed environments, that they can come in and be effective in our organization with minimal of additional training. Obviously, they need to learn about ZOS and learn about our specific code and so on, right? But we don't want them to have to learn about the environment. We want that to look as similar as possible to what they're used to from distributed side. So that's been a key design point for us. Now, so key things we are focusing on is to make sure that we can attract people and inspire them to do their best, right? So software is creative. We want to make sure that people are motivated. So that is a key driver for us to make sure that we are using both modern DevOps tools and practices, agile development, design thinking, and so on, because it makes people more inspired as they do their work. You also see a common theme, how we're focusing on driving innovation, building that into everything we're doing. So we've talked about all the different ways in which we do that. And obviously, what we do for a living is to develop software. So we want to make sure that we excel. I think that is the A team that you see. So how can we always do better, accelerate development, develop software faster, but also, for example, build security into all the steps of our DevOps pipeline, automating security testing, automating testing, and in general, to make sure that we can rapidly get quality software out. So for us, it's really ongoing journey. We've been started with Agile adoption 10 years ago. We rolled out Scaled Agile Framework, or SAFe, 8 years ago. The last couple of years, we've been focusing heavy on modernizing our DevOps practices. So Arun would walk you through that. But it's an ongoing journey. So every year, wherever we're at, we try to make sure that 6 months later we're doing better. So we're heavily investing now in, since a couple of years, in automated testing. So that's been an area we didn't do as much as we should have a couple of years ago, but we have spent a lot of energy the last 2 years on that, for example. So always trying to up the game. So how do we build an agile and innovation mindset? So the first thing is that changing the way we work takes time. So we are building into our plans time for this continuous improvement, whether that is to send people to training courses, we're investing in knowledge transfer internally, we do a lot of mentoring, have mentoring program and so on. We're building in time for building test automation and so on into our schedules. So all of this is planned activities that we recognize as leaders that if we don't plan for that continuous improvement, it will likely not happen. We also have a few center of excellences. So we have an Agile Center of Excellence. So our Scrum Master, for example, they're fully embedded and working as a part of the team, but Agile Scrum Masters and Agile Program Manager, for example, they also are all in one line organizations. We can focus on their career development, hire the best people, make sure that they are given the tools and the training they need to be effective. So on one side, they're embedded in teams, but they're also in a separate center of excellence. Same thing with DevOps. Arun runs that center of excellence with dedicated people that are deep specialists in everything DevOps that can help working with the teams on accelerating our plans for improving in the DevOps area. We're also investing heavily in sharing, whether it's lunch and learn sessions, whether we, and I will talk more about that, rotational assignment, a lot of different things we're doing to make sure that we are continuously learning from each other. Every team are innovating, and we want to make sure that that innovation is spreading. So if you pick up a great idea, we want to make sure that that is adopted across our organization. Then we measure, and measures are one of these things that you focus on what you're trying to achieve in the next 6 months. You're making sure that you have the right measures for that. And if you achieve those things, those measures may not play a role 6 months later, because now you have achieved what you wanted, and now you're going for a new goal. So keep measures evolving. Some things don't change. So some core quality measures. But for example, we measured a lot around code coverage to make sure that people are moving the needle in terms of test automation. But once they are above 80%, doesn't matter whether they're 80 or 85 or 90% of code coverage, probably not. So now you focus on other measures that maybe matter more, right? So, and the last thing is fun. And fun for us, it's really about making sure that people are excited about what they're doing, that they feel that they're part of steering how we're working, what we're working on, and really feel that they're challenged at work. So I mentioned that we've been adopting Agile for 10 years, and about 8 years ago, we decided to adopt Scale Agile Framework, or SAFe. I don't have time to go through what SAFe is about. Many of you are probably familiar with it. But in short, a very brief description, it's about starting with Scrum at the team level. It's really about making those agile practices scale to program level. So at a program, we maybe have a solution with a handful of products that we want to develop as one integrated solution. And at a portfolio, we maybe have all of our products in the DevOps area or all of our products in the AIOps area that are managed as an investment. And that's where we're focusing on the portfolio, making sure that we're meeting our business objectives. Throughout all of these three layers, we're using agile practices. Now, we started adopting Scaled Agile Framework following the cookbook. So we really send people on training. We had a lot of mentors, and we took time to really do it in the right way. And the reason is that you need to start with understanding what is the intent of Scaled Agile Framework. And as we've gone along, we modified more and more. So right now, it definitely has a lot of differences compared to the cookbook SAFe. Really made it our own. Key things we focus on is, for example, radically reducing overhead of planning. So for those of you that have been doing SAFe, you know that it can be pretty intense planning session, days spent on planning for the next PI, the next program implement, which is a quarter-long collection of 6 or so sprints. And the reason is that in the beginning, it took our teams a couple of days to figure out how to do a plan for the next 3 months using agile principles. Now they nail it, so they can do it with a fraction overhead. We also have cross-functional leadership at the team level, program level, and a portfolio level. And we have learned that we can make much better decisions if we're involving people that have a background in user experience, that are architects, that are engineering managers, that are product managers, and involving them, no matter if it's a team level decision for one product, or if it's a program level decision or portfolio level decision. In all of those levels, we have a group of 4 or 5 people with those cross-functional skills coming from those different backgrounds that are one joint leadership team that are effectively working as one team. That makes sure that our decisions are reflective of that shared knowledge, and that has made us more efficient and made us, I believe, take better decisions. Also, some teams that are moving away from SAFe altogether, and they are focusing more on Kanban planning, where they do continuous planning, looking at what to do in the next sprint, but also looking at a couple of quarters roadmaps so they know where to go. So that's another way that they have been reducing the time they spend on planning. So we're focusing heavily on reducing risk and increasing success rate. Software is inherently a very creative and hence a lot of uncertainty. So how do we deal with that uncertainty? We want to unleash innovation, but we also want to make sure that we are steering and controlling some of that innovation to drive business success. First, we are heavily investing in design thinking. So we employed a lot of people that are deep experts in design thinking. It's key for us as we're working with customers to do customer-driven innovation. And it really helps us to move away from just asking customers what they want and truly understanding what are their needs, be able to empathize with customers and better understand what will drive their success. Increasingly, we are moving away from focusing on what we need to do for one product, looking at what we need to do for a collection of products that needs to integrate to provide a more cohesive solution. And as we do that, we need to involve more and more teams and deliver customer value. So to address that, the architectural issues, making sure that we understand what it takes for these few teams to work together, we're investing more and more in architectural runway, meaning that we have a key area we want to evolve, a key set of capabilities, and we have a small team with a heavy architecture focus that look at what needs to be done, maybe build some prototypes so we have a better understanding how to then staff up with a set of teams working on major capabilities. We also want to make sure that everybody is fully aware and informed about what the current status is, what our risks are, what are we facing. So we use Radiators a lot. I think this is from our Plano office where Rune is. You see a picture of all of the, I think there's CI/CD pipeline, so you can see what is green and what is red, so you can directly detect that, okay, I need to address something here. And throughout, we're trying to make sure we have an open culture, that we have this mindset that anybody can suggest improvements, both to how we're working, coming up with product ideas, and that building that culture that innovation comes from everywhere. And that brings us to innovation. So innovation, I mentioned that we're building innovation into really the fabric of how we're working. First, Agile is based on self-organized teams, and with that comes the notion that team members can influence how they're working and also influence what they are doing. So that's one thing. We also build into our safe process a little bit different how each of the portfolios are working here. But some have, for example, a half day every sprint that is dedicated to innovation. Others have a week every quarter that is dedicated to innovation. So that allows the team to work on ideas they have. Maybe it's something they heard from a customer that inspired them, or it's something that they just been thinking about, some technology they would like to explore. But we have a lot of great ideas coming from these innovation weeks or innovation days. Once a year, we have a hackathon, and typically try to steer. So it could be related to AI, it could be related to Zoe open source, could be related to Visual Code, do whatever you can to integrate Visual Code with our products and so on. But typically some teams and people preparing for weeks, and then they spend a few days developing a prototype, some idea they have. And there are some amazing things that come out of that. We just had a hackathon the other week, and looking through those videos they produce and the fun they have, it's been quite amazing. And then we have the notion of incubators. So these are ideas anybody can put in a suggestion for a new project. And then we're looking at the best ideas, we fund those, and then if that goes well, we continue funding it. So it's just another way of driving innovation. Then I mentioned we have rotational assignments. So rotational assignment is a way for us to make sure that if a team has done something really good, we're trying to make sure we mix things up. So if people want to learn new skills, we give them the opportunity to work in a new area where they can learn new skills. But with them, they bring a lot of knowledge on how their old team worked. And that helps spreading the best ideas across our organization. We're also managing innovation as a structured program. So we're looking at what works and what doesn't work, what should we do differently. So that is actually managed as a program by itself, but represent this from all of our major sites and all the major roles. So we have people from architecture, user experience, development, and so on that participate in this steering committee for how we drive innovation. Here you see some photos from the last hackathon we did, not virtual. The last two has been virtual, but before that it was always on site. So here is a hackathon where we focus on Zoe, and as you see, a lot of food, a lot of fun that people have, but it's always great ideas coming up from those. So with that, over to you, Arun. What are we doing on the DevOps side?
Thanks, Per. So one of the things that Per and I were discussing, and we felt we should talk about this, is because this story that we talk about is very easily replicable. A lot of the pieces that we have put together are things that everybody can do, and something we found a lot of success with. So when we started, our driving desire was, how do we accelerate our business plans, roadmaps, right? And this resulted in very clear goals around the need to increase velocity and on-time delivery of our features. But at the same time, we had to do this without compromising on security or creating future technical debt for our products. So it just boiled down to, how do you eliminate waste? How do you shift left on quality? How do you drive towards more on schedule releases, right? To ensure the teams consistently exceed their goals without compromising on either quality or security. So that's kind of the structure when we started this Center of Excellence and rolled out the program. The first thing we did before we started this transformation is we decided we're going to take a very data-driven approach to this, right? So it's going to be making data easily available to teams, letting them measure their success, measuring progress, and even finding where they need help. So we basically started by measuring how much automation exists today, right? Across whether it's the products, the setting up of environments, the actual test cases that are integrated into the build process, or even how easily dev environments are actually available for our developers, right? And the idea here was simple. The more visibility you provide into the opportunity that teams have, the more likely they are going to adopt DevOps best practices. So that's our goal. Next slide, please. So how did we achieve success, right? When we've had some great results, Per will talk about that in a bit. But when we look back, we basically see that there were three key execution patterns that helped us to drive this transformation. Firstly, our belief that mainframe DevOps is no different than any other DevOps process, right? And that, as with everything else, it just needs a concerted effort with a lot of executive support and a dedicated conductor to orchestrate this transformation and the change. So our CI/CD pipelines within the mainframe products, they use many of the same tools as our latest cloud offerings. It's also equally important that the business goals for DevOps on mainframe are no different than the business goals for the DevOps processes on the other side, right? They're always just three things. How do you eliminate waste that developers working on non-product stuff or our infrastructure? How can you reduce that, right? How can you shift left on quality so you find defects, you reduce the lead times to finding defects and things like that? And how do you provide modern contemporary tooling for developers so they basically have fun and it's a happier development environment, right? So focus on achieving business goals, and also that mainframe is no different. Now, the second key piece is with any large scale transformation, you might find that it may seem impractical, right? It may seem that you can never achieve this, or this seems a lot of theory. But we realize that when you break these efforts down, right, into a single value stream at a time, and a value stream is basically a solution development team, right? You find that you break these into smaller, simpler targets within each value stream, where you measure data, you set goals around this data of automation and code coverage. You'll find that you make a lot of progress. And when you aggregate these incremental goals, they actually add up real fast and help a very strong transformation, right? It's something we observed very closely and something that I think is very important. Second piece is around providing developers access to an on-demand environment. Now, this is true in the distributed world. People can request on-demand environments at any point in time. And when we started the transformation, we found that a lot of productivity was being lost with people waiting on dev environments or environments being very slow. And this is something we wanted to address right away. So we basically built a modern Z dev test cloud in the cloud, and we're providing our developers with instant access to high performing developer environments when they need it, right? So no longer waiting for environments or waiting on manual tickets. They're able to create environments on demand, and this is primarily for dev test. Third is the most important lesson in my opinion, which is you need to automate wherever possible, right? This cannot be overstated enough or emphasized enough, because what people tend to do is they tend to focus on roadmaps. They tend to look at automation as a trade-off, right? Is it needed? Is it absolute requirement? And what we have found is that the velocity increases that you get from automation, and even the reduction in the long-term support cost of a particular application or a product is pretty significant, right? Now, I know people talk about this all the time, but we focused on this, as you will see from some of the charts and some of the metrics we've achieved. This was an absolute focus area, right? We wanted to ensure that we increase code coverage of automated test suites and basically ensure a fully automated workflow, right? From code change to a fully tested APAR or PTF. And this had tremendous impact on increasing our velocity for the agile development organization, right? So it really helped them be agile. Now you are going to find that this competes with aggressive product roadmaps and any associated development tasks. But my personal opinion, and I'm sure Per will agree, is that if you invest in automation upfront and make it an integral part of your product development process, it's a key ingredient to your success. Next slide, please. And Per, I think you can build out this slide. So we also thought we should share a view into our lab, right? So as much as I'm talking about mainframe DevOps not being different, I wanted to share how a typical pipeline looks for many of our modern products in the mainframe software division within Broadcom. So if you look at this, our developers have access to on-demand environments. The on-demand environments are modern dev test cloud, right? In some cases, it's hosted within the Broadcom private cloud, and in many cases, it's hosted on our. So we run a bunch of instances on Google Cloud, right? So it's hosted on Google Cloud. We use a whole bunch of open source tools. We use Zoe. We use IBM's ZDT to help enable this. But the end net result is an easy on-demand developer environment. The next critical piece is that while developers have IDs of their choice and the point of entry is very flexible, Endeavor is a central code repository for us. However, we found recently that there's a lot of request from modern tooling, right? We have a massive investments into the mainframe software division, which has meant that we've had people coming in from different companies who are familiar with other tools, right? And especially GitHub, that's a very popular, as many of you have probably heard and use day to day, right? GitHub is a very popular tool. We've had a lot of requests for that. So the central DevOps pipeline also supports integrations for projects to GitHub via GitBridge, which is a Broadcom tool. And as an organization, we have invested significantly in developing skills and workflows around Endeavor, which is obviously one of our core products. But with this need to support GitHub, bringing in GitBridge into the mix has made it really easy, because now we have a mix of modern tooling, yet we have not had to touch any of the core workflows that we've invested a lot in over the years, right? So in order to support this new and growing need, we brought GitHub, yet with we brought GitHub with GitBridge and Endeavor. You now have a pretty secure and robust source code repository solution. Now, once the source code is in Endeavor, all the automated CI/CD pipelines take on the task of building the product, testing the builds, and creating products ready for consumption by our customers, right? So, and as part of this pipeline, we use several modern tools as well. So firstly, Zoe, Jenkins, Red Hat Ansible, IBM ZOSMF, these are all key pieces and the backbone of this CI/CD infrastructure. But the pipeline leverages most modern tools you will find in any state-of-art DevOps infrastructure, right? So again, I emphasize on mainframe DevOps is no different as long as you have the right business goals, because many of the tools you'll use are also very similar to the distributed or the cloud world, right? Now, there's a lot of emphasis on security and securing your software supply chain, right? So our DevOps pipelines also have integrated security scanning services for composition analysis that tells you what is actually being put into the products, vulnerability analysis that's done on a very regular basis, and most importantly, running these security scans is, and most of them are industry standard, is a requirement for all our products. So the fact that a central DevOps group was able to set these up and make them available as a service for all our engineering teams increased adoption massively, right? And now we have every product is end-to-end scanned on a nightly basis. So we've completely been able to shift left in terms of finding any vulnerability or addressing that. So this has been a big achievement in my opinion. And this is in addition to all the traditional code coverage scanning tools, right? Whether it's SonarQube, Jacoco, or even an internal assembler code coverage scanner that we have built, right? That helps us provides our teams insight into how much code coverage their testing actually has. All of this provides data to these teams, and the net result at the end of this is basically a fully automated CI/CD process that pushes tested, secure, and high quality builds into our product repositories, which is in Artifactory and Box, another very modern set of tools, right? And I think, in my opinion, the ability to trust this process, that it would produce quality builds, right, has been a key piece of this DevOps pipeline. Now, I think that's something that everybody should focus on, which is how can you build a DevOps pipeline where you actually trust the output of that process and you're willing to ship it to your customer, or in some cases put it in production, right? So that's basically, my opinion, a key goal from a DevOps perspective. Mostly, I think we've also been able to increase the amount of testing we do on our products without any additional investment. So basically, once the automation pipelines are set up, once you have these test suites, even a fix, it goes through the same level of rigorous testing that a major release would go through these automation test suites and CI/CD pipelines, right? So it's I think a very big win for us and our customers, because we are able to ship much higher quality code. Next slide, please. So additionally, as part of this transformation, we've also put together what we call a Z developer portal. Now, this is a one-stop shop for our entire engineering team, right? This is an internal portal. It's for the Broadcom engineering, product management teams, where we have everything engineering come together. Now, whether it's health of our existing development LPARs, right? What are the current activity going on? Is it a good time to run performance tests? What's the health? If tests fail, has there been an issue with the health of the LPAR? You have all that information in one place in the developer portal. Also, security scans. Our product teams can now go in. They can look at exactly every night we run these security scans. My teams actually run them for the entire division. So basically, they can go in and see if there's any vulnerabilities, anything that they need to act upon. A lot of insight and analytics on security and quality, right? So both of these, the code coverage is also part of these scans. So we are able to put forward to the team some insight on opportunities, and essentially, as they make plans, give them data they need to make better plans. Like I said, on-demand developer environments. So they're able to come into the portal. They're able to request a developer environment on demand, or if it's a more complex environment that they want set up, they can actually put in a request or reserve one of the pre-built environments that we have, right? And all it takes is a few minutes. They get an email with information, and they're able to actually start working in that reserved or dedicated environment. And then in general, they can seek help of this center of excellence, right? Anybody who has a question, anybody who needs an enhancement to their DevOps pipeline, there are experts available on call from my team that can go to these product teams and help them improve their DevOps process. And I think just the fact of having this a set of experts together has been very beneficial. So I think what is important from the portal here is that it brings data together, right? It brings data across multiple processes, across multiple pipelines, and it essentially shows you all the KPIs that you need to know that tell you how well you're doing from a DevOps transformation purposes, right? So it basically gives you it's like a 360 environment for a particular product. In fact, one of the reports that we have that all the leaders within the group, including Per here, use is what we call the product 360, right? It gives you a view of a single product and all metrics tied to the product, which includes quality, support, things like that, and also gives you aggregated views, so you can manage your applications or manage your products and portfolio much better using data and KPIs, right? Next slide, please. So apart from that, Per shared Radiator. We've had a lot of focus on Radiators, right? And like I said, the main thought process behind that is when you make data easily available and you present it to teams and their leaders, they tend to act on that data, right? As long as it's clearly actionable. So that's kind of been a focus area for my team, which is to make the Radiators available to all teams. So the developers or managers can use the portal to review their DevOps pipelines. They can use it to look at status of their solutions or product builds. They build their own what they call traffic lights, right? What's a red, what's a green, when should it be alerted, escalated, and teams have really adopted this and taken this to heart. So in other words, if there's something red, people try to look at it. And we're finding by giving flexibility to defining what's red and what's green, people are actually now taking this really seriously, and it really helps because you find that the what we call the average green build time during a release is actually increasing, and the number of red builds during the entire release, or the time which the pipeline stays red, is actually decreasing, right? So it's very, very interesting. And a subset of this data is also pushed to our developer Slack channels. In many cases, teams prefer to use Slack, and we use Slack within Broadcom as well. So we push a lot of the information to Slack channels so people can consume that. I think investments made on Radiators, whether it's using Slack channels, whether it's putting build monitors, it does cost some expense, but it's well worth it because it makes the data very clearly visible, right? And I really think visual cues, whether it's that of opportunities or celebrating successes, putting them up on big boards and making it clearly visible, was one of the key ingredients to our transformation. Next slide, please. Also, it's been our observation, like I said, that providing engineering leaders with quick access through self-service analytic tools and KPI dashboards has helped tremendously, right? Has helped decision-making during PI planning, which is essentially the quarterly engineering planning and that we sit together with product management and decide what to build in the next quarter. Making such data available has been very, very useful. So the teams plan key value items, and it's not just roadmap, right? It's not just features. It's now even how do we ensure that our entire process is built better and more robust, right? How can they look at the 360-degree data? They look at the quality feeds coming in from support, quality scans, and they use that to make more accurate plans. Now, previously, without the data or easy access to data, you can make the best of plans, but some of these distractions come in during the quarterly program increment, and they disrupt your productivity, right? They reduce they almost ensure that you cannot meet your plans. But now with this data easily available, we have found that people use the data to make better decisions, and that's translated to more on-time releases, more features actually shipping through the pipeline because people are not distracted. They're able to allocate capacity for things they can expect are going to happen based on the data, right? So that's I think been a key benefit. And one of the like I said, one of the biggest benefits of this has been better plans and more on-time delivery of releases, right? And both of these are extremely essential to the broader engineering organization. So overall, I think from my perspective, there's just two key lessons. One is measure, like Per said, measure, right? Understand where you are, right? Even if you're at 0% code coverage, 5% is fantastic. 10% is great. 20% is awesome, right? It doesn't mean you have to go to 100, right? Every incremental progress will quickly add up, and you will start seeing benefits, right? That's been our experience. And the second thing is make data easily available to your leaders, right? You empower all the engineering leaders within your organization, because we have found that people use the data. They use the data in planning. They use the data in making commitments. And when that happens, you basically have a much more predictable pipeline and a predictable roadmap execution, right? Those things that really matter from both an engineering and even for anybody building software applications. So that's basically been my experience. Per, back to you.
Thanks, Arun. And yeah, let's wrap up with some key lessons, and hopefully have some questions, or we'll have a discussions after that. So just to emphasize a few things that Arun talked about. Automation is crucial. This obsession always getting better. We know that no matter how good you are today, we always looking for how can we get that next level of edge. Executive support, probably should call that leadership support. One thing that is crucial for us is that these things require, to improve, it requires dedicated effort, dedicated focus. So no matter if you're a product manager, product owner, whatever, making sure that people understand that, yes, when we dedicate time to improve test automation, it takes away time from delivering a customer feature, but it typically pays off handsomely. So down the road, we get much more efficiency. So it's a good investment for the future. And all of our leaders, all of our executives, for example, every product management director we have an experience in Agile development. So it's very easy for us to have the right discussions as a leadership team and do the right trade-offs. So those are really some of the key things. Obviously, having fun, and as I said, having fun is not about bringing in pizza only. It's about making sure that people are motivated, that people feel that they are a part of the process, that they can influence how we do things and what we're doing. So what does success look for? We're trying to measure that. Some of these measures are hard to do. Some of the easy things is measure build time, right? There is tremendous amount of benefits you can get there, pretty low hanging fruit. It's typically fast to get that to go much faster than it does today. Code coverage, that is a slog. There is no easy way of moving from 0% to plus 80% code coverage through automated test, right? It requires dedicated investment over quarters, if not years. When we're looking at the industry in general, the average mainframe application have typically a single digit percent of code coverage through automated testing. So the industry is clearly underinvesting in this area. We'd made it a point that we really should invest in this area. But as I said, once you're approaching 70%, 80%, you have to question, what is the incremental value getting to 90% to 95%? At some stage, you kind of like move from focusing on code coverage. You want to move the needle to make teams invest in test automation. But at some stage, it's more about the quality of that testing, or you're testing the right things. And that's what we're focusing on now. Productivity. It's one of these things super hard to measure. How do you measure productivity? We choose to measure productivity by looking at story points the team produce and then trying to calibrate our story points the same size as they were 2 years ago. And doing some calibration there, is we're not kind of like creating smaller story points and hence increasing productivity in a fake way. But we believe that the last 2 years, we improved productivity by roughly 33% or so, doing many of the things that Arun talks about around test automation in general, CI/CD pipeline. So heavy focus on the DevOps side over the last 2 years. And obviously lead time, the time it takes from us to have a focus on this is a key customer capability we want to deliver until that is out in the market, right? So enormous reductions we've done there. So that is our journey. We would love for you to submit feedback on this session. And we love even more if you have questions and comments. So let's open it up and see if there are any questions for us.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting to see the cultural change within a big organization, because that's where, I think buying tools and inventing processes like you're saying with SAFe and Kanban are perhaps the easier of the 3 points. Changing the culture is the critical success thing. So if anybody on the call does have any questions, if they'd like to pop them into the chat.
And we're happy to unmute you if you have any comments or questions. Everybody shy. Okay.
Yeah, maybe everyone is shy. So just to remind you that was session 2AU for your feedback. And Per, thank you, or Arun, thank you for uploading the slide. So on the GSE agenda, you can get the content for all those fantastic ideas for transforming your culture. Last call for questions before I close down.
If anybody wants to reach out to me or Per as well, you can send us an email and should be on the registration. So we'd be happy to hear back from you. I mean, we're just trying to create this share knowledge and learn from everybody else's experience as well. So please feel free to reach out to us.
Fantastic. What a great offer. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one. Enjoy the rest of GSE. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.